Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News. And as you can see behind me, we are in beautiful Banff, Alberta. Why? Because we're here for the G7 summit. It's held in Kananaskis, actually just up the road to the east, but this is where the media are being corralled. And we are here after a very short legal battle with the Carney government. You can see all of our documents and the lawsuit we filed at letusreport.com. But I'll give you the Coles Notes version. The Carney government was dragging their feet to accredit Rebel News. And so we filed a last-minute lawsuit, thanks to your help at that website, letusreport.com. And the Carney Liberals blinked. Why? Because they didn't want to go to federal court with us, where they would be in front of the same federal court that handed the Liberals 2 defeats when we asked for accreditation in 2019 and 2021 to cover the leaders' debate. So they didn't want that third time's the charm humiliation at the hands of the federal court. So they blinked last minute. And so that's why I am here. And I am here with Angelica Toy, who is also accredited, and Sid Fizzard. Now, they were here on site in Banff before I was, and they were snooping around the media center, where I should note to you, there's a very large presence from state broadcasters. And I don't just mean the CBC, I also mean the Chinese state broadcaster, and of course, Al Jazeera, the Qatari state broadcaster. Those dictatorship state broadcasters received accreditation before the Alberta journalists who work for the independent news site Rebel News were accredited. Isn't that something? Now, Sid, I want to ask you what you've seen or noticed here as you were snooping around the media center.
So I did take a little, mosey around the building here, and there's 3 floors. The first 2 floors are open pool areas. So media just come in, they sit down, they set up, do whatever. It's an open space. But then on the 3rd floor, that's where the pooled media access is. Now, these are people that, my assumption here is that the pooled media reference, the word here, is the same pooled media that's going to be taking the buses from Banff to Kananaskis. See, we thought, you get the badge to be a Kananaskis G7 media reporter, you're going to the G7 event. No, we're actually only allowed now at the Banff Media Center. If you want to go to the Kananaskis Summit to report, you need to go to the Prime Minister's office and get their approval in order to attend the actual summit, or to ask questions, I believe, at the press conferences that might be taking place here as well. So I just thought it was very interesting. It was a big win that we got in. Yep. And then what do we find out as soon as we get in? Oh no, you need to have the Prime Minister's approval in order to ask questions. And I think it's very disingenuously set up that way.
Yeah, we're still fighting that, and I don't think that's going to stop us from doing journalism here. We're going to show you as much of the G7 as we can, and we're going to do our best to ask some prickly questions. For example, I've got some prickly questions for the South African president. Now, Angelica, you want to do some journalism from in and around the Banff town site. Tell us about that.
Of course, well, we're here to tell the other side of the story. And of course, we're probably going to be some of the only media that are actually here to scrutinize the G7 agendas and then also expose the hypocrisy of the environmentalists.
Now, I want to tell you, we are jammed up in a media room with a lot of the same unhinged buffoon journalists that we had to be corralled with at the leaders' debate. So far, they're on pretty good behavior, and it's because the RCMP, I think, are everywhere and not the on-site security of the CBC at the leaders' debate. So we haven't been heckled yet, but it's early in the game and they've got an extra day to heckle us. So if you're at home, maybe say a prayer for your rebels tonight. And you guys are taking off right now. You are headed back to Calgary. So it's like an hour and a half back to Calgary. Tell us what you're doing there.
Yeah, well, there's actually the most exciting guest that is going to be coming to the G7 event, I think, is undoubtedly President Donald J. Trump. He's going to be here. He's expected to be landing at the Calgary airport shortly. We already took a quick stop here at the demonstration zone in Banff, but its official start date is tomorrow, but we caught one protester there. Now we're going to go to the airport. We're going to check out the designated protest sites in Calgary, and obviously the most notable one being at the airport, where we're going to hope to see President Donald J. Trump, perhaps at a distance, but still in person.
I think you might catch some protesters for and against Donald Trump while you're there. And, I think this is going to be an interesting G7 because it is framed in the backdrop of Western separation, upwards of, it's approaching 50% of Albertans are seriously considering separation now. That means cessation from Canada. Does that mean, though, going our own way or becoming the 51st state? That's a huge question going on while the G7 is occurring in Alberta. But also at the same time, we have Israel in a preemptive strike against Iran, and we've got world leaders calling for de-escalation while Israel is in an existential fight for survival against a potentially nuclear power of Iran that wants to wipe them off the face of the earth. So that's going to be a hot topic here. But if you want to see all of our reports from on the ground here in Banff, in Kananaskis, if we can get over there, and also in Calgary, go to g7reports.com. Here in Banff at the Media Center for the G7 with Angelique Toy and Sid Fizzard, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid.
Don't forget, guys, go to g7reports.com to see the latest from all three of us here at the Kananaskis G7 Summit. We're going to be here in Banff, we're going to be there in Calgary, and hopefully we'll be able to make our way to Kananaskis. But you're going to find that out at g7reports.com.